Brooklyn Independent Television.
For Julian Boyd, going through hard times never took his heart out of the game.
Starting at full and 6'7" sophomore from San Antonio, Texas, number 42, Julian Boyd.
For me, basketball is more than just a sport now. Like, it's my lifestyle. It's what I love to do, and having it was taken away, it just means so much more now. I appreciate it. Everything I do in my life, I want to revolve around it because that's the game I've loved and I've grown up with my whole life. 2 summers ago now, when I was at home, I was working out as usual, and I got a cramp in my calves. And usually that's a normal thing for me. I usually get cramps and things like that, so it wasn't that big of a problem. But it started to go like to my legs, and my arms, and my stomach, and it started cramping everywhere. And I couldn't really move or anything, so my friend actually took me home from my house, and then my father took me to the emergency room. When everything happened, like, I felt really weak, like I couldn't really walk, I couldn't talk, I wasn't very active, so once I started putting IVs in me, I started coming back and doing things like that, and able to feel better and talk and realize what everything had happened. They said that my kidneys had failed, and they really didn't know why. When they first told me I had kidney failure, I was very surprised. I didn't think anything like that would ever happen to me, or because being an athlete, I didn't think it was possible, and things like that. So it was shocking mostly. I didn't know why that had happened or what I did to have that happen. And then when they came back and said it was my heart, that was more shock, because I always thought, you know, I've been playing basketball and being active in sports for the past 15 years of my life, and so I've never had anything like that ever happen before. So when they came back and said it was my heart, it was more just a lot of shock, because I thought my heart was healthy and good, and didn't think there was anything wrong with that.
When I first heard about Julian's condition, I was working my basketball camp in August, and Julian had called me and said, "Hey coach, you know, I cramped up really bad working out, and they said my kidneys had failed." So he was in the hospital for basically renal failure. And we were like, all right, well, you know, keep me updated. I got in touch with his family, kind of spoke to him, and they said everything's going to be all right. It's just he really, you know, dehydrated himself really badly. But then as they were releasing him from the hospital, they wanted to give him a full checkup. So they gave him basically a full checkup, and they found a little heart murmur.
I felt fine afterwards when they were telling me that, so I thought it was just like a random thing that happened and everything would be all right.
So they wanted to follow up from that heart murmur to see what it was, and a lot of times it's usually nothing. And I guess from that point on, they kept doing these tests, and they found that there was something abnormal with his heart. And then from there, they took it to an MRI and found out, you know, that his left ventricle wasn't really pumping at the rate that it should.
The condition they said I had was called non-compaction cardiomyopathy. And once they said that, I didn't really know what that was either. And they said it's a fairly new thing that hasn't been around for a while, so they didn't know much about it. So they started looking through things. And they said with the condition, they weren't sure if I was going to be able to play basketball or how much exertion I could put on my heart. So that's when they started talking about the defibrillator thing. They said they would put it in my chest, and they would do its own thing if my heart ever stopped or anything like that. But we didn't think that was something that I needed, because like I said, I've been active and playing for 15 years of my life, and nothing like that's ever happened. So basically before they wanted to do that, they wanted to research more about it and look more and more into it, because they didn't want to take drastic measures if it wasn't needed. So, well, luckily that didn't have to happen, so which was good, but that was one of the options that they talked about early in the process.
The next thing was getting Julian to understand how serious this was. Okay, this wasn't an ankle injury, this wasn't a knee injury that, okay, in 2 weeks it will come back. And it was a process. It was a very long process, because with a heart ailment or injury, you have to make sure what's going on with that. So there were just a multitude of tests. It went from days to weeks to months, and we weren't going to allow Julian to play. We just weren't going to allow him to. Training staff, myself, the doctors, until we found out what was going on.
Being able to come to practices and at the games and things and not be able to play was very stressful, and it was very, very hard, because being able to play last year and having such a good season I did the year before just to come out here and have to sit at the table all the time and not be able to do anything. I wasn't allowed to run or do any physical activity. So it was really hard and more stressful and angry, I could say, that I wasn't able to do those things. But the last test that I had done was they wanted to see if I needed the defibrillator again, which they decided I didn't. And by the time that they found that out, I was at home. So the doctor actually emailed me and said that the other doctor didn't think I needed the defibrillator and everything was all right, so I could continue doing physical activity, just start out slow and let them know how I feel when it's all done. So when I got that email, I was very ecstatic, and it was a whole year's worth of all different emotions and feelings just lifted off, and I knew that everything was going to be all right, and I'm happy it worked out well.
Well, to have him back, it's a multitude of feelings. It's excitement, it's joy, it's happiness for the kid. Julian is a great person. He's a great kid. He had something taken away from him that he had never experienced before, not being able to play the game of basketball. To see the joy in his eyes and his face, and to see his teammates' joy, just to have him back. Whether he was going to score 1 point or 20 points, it didn't really matter. It just mattered having Julian back, the real Julian. His excitement was back in his face. You know, you could see it in his step, you could see it in his smile every day. That's the Julian that we wanted back. The basketball stuff was going to take care of itself. It's just for him to have the game back and to see how everybody rallied around him and was excited for him. It was great. And don't get me wrong, he's a great basketball player, so having him back on that end has helped the program tremendously as well. But it was more so about him getting the real Julian back and his excitement.
Every day now when I'm able to come on this court, it means so much, and I know that everyone always says, live every day like it's your last. I play every game like it's my last now, because I know that it could be, so I don't want to hold anything back, and just being out on the court feels so great, and it's a great feeling just to be out here and be able to play a game with my teammates and out there. So it's a great feeling. It's very, very nice to be able to be out there again.
Download this program's podcast on iTunes. Keywords Brooklyn Independent Television.